Might help if I have my fucking microphone up here.
Nah. Yeah, I thought you were coming in a little soft.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Come On Man. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit those notifications, drop a comment. Any comment will do. Even if it's your favorite emoji, it doesn't matter. I say this every week. If you guys are watching during the premiere on Mondays, sound off in the live chat. Sometimes I'm in there while I'm editing clips for the day or actually for the week. And, I pop in there. So say hello. All that kind of stuff helps me in the algorithm. If you guys are listening on your favorite audio platform of choice, please give us a 5-star review and actually write out why you like the show. Just like, a couple words. It doesn't have to be a book. Could be a couple of sentences. Doesn't matter. Just, all that kind of stuff helps us in the algorithm. And if you get value from these episodes, then, that's the least you can do. It's the least you can do. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description. I'm on all the major platforms. I'm really trying to build up my Instagram account. So if you're not following me on Instagram, give me a follow there. Links in the description. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/comeonmanpod. You can join the Patreon for as little as $10. You get these episodes, Monday's episodes, ad-free. So just the interview portion without all this intro, outro stuff. And then if you want some kind of coaching, join tiers 2 or tiers 3. I just had a new premium member sign up. He's in his 60s, looking to finish out his later years with a plethora of poon. So I'm going to get him where he needs to be. But if you need help like that, join the Patreon, patreon.com/comeonmanpod. And yes, guys over 40 get laid too. Believe it or not. Ooh, you can send a super chat, but I won't be able to read it because this isn't live. But you can feel free to send a super sticker. That will help support the show as well. Get on the email list.comeonmanpod.com, and I will send you some free stickers. And if you like these designs, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see what these designs look like. If you're listening on audio, come on over to YouTube one of these days and take a look at these. They're actually pretty sweet, too sweet. And they're also available on merch. So down below this video, if you're watching on YouTube, I've got my Teespring store linked. Otherwise, you can go to merch.comeonmanpod.com, and all these designs are available on coffee mugs and t-shirts and hoodies and all that fun stuff too. So check that out. And then finally, check out my Practical Law of Attraction course, loa.comeonmanpod.com. And every episode this week, I don't know if you guys have noticed yet, but every episode this week, I'm telling people to DM me either on Instagram or Twitter. So last Monday, I said, hey, DM me on Instagram and I will give you a 30% off code. So today on Monday, I'm going to tell you to DM me on Twitter. First 5 people to DM me today, it's got to be today, Monday, will get 30% off. I'll give you a 30% off code for my Practical Law of Attraction course. It's chick crack free. It's all psychological. It's all psychology based. There's no genies granting wishes, no woo-woo chakras and crystals or anything like that. Okay. It's all about reprogramming your subconscious mind so that you can achieve the goals that you want in life, no matter what they are, whether it's, it's money, relationships, health, whatever. It all starts with your mindset, right? So check that out, loa.comeonmanpod.com. All right, joining me today is a really interesting dude. He goes by either RedHawk or Red-Pilled Hawk. Some people know him as either or, right? I think he prefers to be called RedHawk though. But RedHawk is one of those anonymous red pillars, right? He doesn't like to show his face out there. He has a YouTube channel. And he gets quite a bit of views on it, but he doesn't show his face. So in this interview, you just see like the avatar of a hawk that I'm talking to. But he's a really cool dude. Really good insights. He's he's a hunter. So we talk a lot about hunting. If you're into hunting, you'll love this episode. All right. If you're a vegan and you don't like the idea of hunting, maybe skip this one. maybe skip this one, but we talk a lot about hunting and stuff like that and how he got into the red pill space. It's a fun conversation, and I will bring you this interview right after these words. Do you struggle to find the kind of women you want? Are you tired of swiping away all day on dating apps and only finding mediocre women? When you're out and about at the supermarket or at the mall, all you see are woke liberal women? You can't seem to find a traditional submissive woman that checks all your boxes. What if I were to tell you that the reason why you can't find your traditional submissive woman is because of your mindset, because of your paradigm? We get what we focus on in life. And you have programmed your mind to think that there's only trash women around you. You've programmed your mind by focusing on what you don't want in a relationship. To solve this problem, I've created my Practical Law of Attraction course. In my course, I will teach you how to reprogram your subconscious mind so that you will be hyper aware of the kind of women that will check all of your boxes. It's not that they weren't there before, it's just that you weren't aware of them because of your current mindset. So let's change that mindset today. Check out my course by visiting loa.comeonmanpod.com. That's loa.comeonmanpod.com. The law of attraction is nothing without action. So act now. Joining me today is a pretty cool cat, or bird rather, in the men's red pill space. He has a lot of insight in the areas of women and hunting. It's RedHawk. If you're watching on YouTube, Hawk prefers to keep his anonymity, which I respect. It's a dangerous business these days, talking about the ways of women, and none of us want to get canceled, so I totally get it. That being said, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me on, Paul. This will be tons of fun.
Yeah, you know, this isn't the first sort of anonymous show where I've had a guy that like doesn't want to show their face. I one time actually had this done twice. I had a guy who was like a sex guru on, and that was actually before we did the like I did video. It was all audio only back then, so wasn't a big deal. But then when I went to go actually put all this stuff on YouTube, I didn't have his face recorded, so we couldn't show any of that. And then I one time had a doctor who was a general practitioner, and he wanted to talk about sex and anatomy, but he wanted to use a fake name, and he didn't want his face out there because he didn't want it to impact his practice. So it's like, okay, cool. So it doesn't happen very often on my show, but it's fine if it is. So
yeah, I don't even have remotely a cool enough answer for that guy. I mean, I'm a trades guy, so I got no reason to protect my employment. It's just I don't like having too much attention, which is like kind of weird being on like the online space and everything like that. But funny enough, I got in this discussion. I mean, you'll know Kate from Twitter, like who's like lurking around. Like our people's chats and stuff like that. But she was trying to get me to talk to Destiny. And I was like, no, I do not need the attention of, 200,000 Destiny fans in my life, by no means. And it's kind of like the same thing with the, anonymity thing. It's like, I'm not so much worried about getting doxxed. Like, I'm mostly worried about fans, man. That's the biggest thing. Like having like some like spurred come up to you in person or something,
Oh, got it. So you're kind of like a luchador in wrestling, right? They whenever they're in public, they got their mask on because they also want to be able to go to the store and stuff and not be hassled by fans. Like
pretty much. Yeah.
I hear you. So Kate wanted you to go on Destiny's show?
She wanted me to talk to Destiny. Yeah. Kate apparently is some Destiny fanboy or something to the effect.
Fangirl.
yeah. Exactly. But no, that's not my speed. No way.
I've never actually watched a Destiny show. I've only ever seen clips of like, Red Meat on Twitter and stuff from that guy. I don't know what he's about. What's he about? Do you ever watch his stuff?
No, I do not watch too much of his stuff. He had a really big stint in like political YouTube, and he basically like gave a start to all of these, shit lib like leftivists that just go on to debate people and just argue for why they need more people's money. So no, I got no interest. But apparently, he was the patsy for everyone to start debating like RP topics or something. I know like he went on like Fresh and Fit or some shit, and that Sneeko guy and stuff like that. So I guess he was the person who was okay to like start debating red pill stuff for some stupid reason.
But But he's not even like he doesn't even consider himself like a red pill guy, right? And
No.
he's in some kind of open relationship with his like OnlyFans girlfriend or something, right? Is that am I accurate here? I don't want to
I
say
I
inaccurate information.
I know I haven't done too much research into the guy just because, he's just doesn't interest me too much,
Yeah.
just leftists in general just don't interest me too much. But
Dude,
anyway,
dude, same. Dude, same.
yeah. And I guess to my knowledge, he's in like some kind of open relationship with some smoking hot Swedish chick or something like that. And I don't know. I mean, like everyone was trying to argue, like, oh, this guy is like the most like RP guy possible because he's living in his own frame and doing his own thing. I'm like, yeah, that might be the case, but that doesn't mean I have to care. It doesn't mean I have to, approve
Yeah.
of what he's doing. It doesn't mean I have to think about him at all.
Yeah,
So
I guarantee his hot smoke show girlfriend is on the upside of that arrangement.
yeah, I mean, I probably agree with that too, but again, it's just like, it's just some other dude, who's never really going to come into contact with me in my life. So,
Yeah.
I don't need to be wasting energy, thinking about what he's doing.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So you have a YouTube channel
Yep.
with just over, at the time of this recording, at just over 1,000 subscribers. And guys, if you aren't subscribed to Hawk, do yourself a favor. I know he doesn't want to be famous, but subscribe to him anyway. He has a lot of good content. You also have a Substack as well where you blog. What's
Mhm.
more popular, your Substack or your YouTube?
It's interesting. They're kind of like two different audiences, which is really weird. Substack's algorithm really, really likes me. I mean, there's a whole other topic to go into this, but like, Substack definitely has a pretty balanced algorithm. It's definitely, more like friendly to right wingers, which is pretty nice. So it's pretty much run by our guys. And a lot of my Substack content is not so much like RP stuff because, like, to be honest, I was talking to Jack Napier about this, funny enough, but it's like, why am I, this 1,000 sub like guy talk about RP stuff when we got somebody like Ryan, like he's just going to do it better than I will, so like,
Yeah.
I don't need to be writing about, RP stuff on my Substack. So I do more focused on hunting and then political stuff. I'm also, I run a company called the Old Glory Club, which is kind of like a American centric think tank organization plus news stuff. And I run that with a bunch of other guys that are in, right wing politics. And I do a lot of my Substack writing on there. And, I read a lot about, some economics and just national parks and road tripping, just, the beauty of America and things like that. So that's more what I focus on my Substack. So hunting and then like America centric things. And then on the YouTube channel, I mean, my main show is Man's Hour. I run it every Thursday. And we basically just talk about masculinity issues, and things of that nature. And you've been a guest on there a couple times. And yeah, it's just a fun little thing where we get to sit down for an hour and just talk about things that interest men. Sometimes we talk about pickup stuff. Sometimes we're talking about, nerd shit, all the things that we all love.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Speaking of Substack and Ryan, I think it was you that talked Ryan into doing his own Substack.
Yeah, he definitely asked me about it because I'd been on it. I've been on Substack for over a year at this point. And I mean, I like it. Obviously, like the algorithm, like I was saying, was very friendly. It's weird because a lot of my most recent postings have actually been going to the company Old Glory Club. That's where most of my writing is focusing now. And I still get, new subscribers on my actual, site all the time. And which is very interesting. You just don't get that on, other platforms like Twitter or YouTube or things like that. You really have to work for them. But Substack, they do a lot of work for you, which is pretty nice.
No, that's interesting. So you got Ryan on it, and then Ryan in we have a private Rule Zero chat. He's really talking up Substack, and he convinced Rolo to start a Substack. So now Rolo has a
yeah, I saw that. I've been reading like both of their posts a little bit. It really is just like the old blogging days have somehow like come back, but yeah, it's a great service. The UI is really good. And yeah, I totally recommend it. Get on Substack if you guys are interested in writing. It's a great place to start. You can sync it right up to your Twitter, so it just tweets out everything, like all your articles that you publish and stuff. So for sure.
Yeah, Ryan was he was suggesting as a great way for content creators who are building email lists, and I'm trying to build an email list. And he's like, "Oh, this actually would be perfect for that because people subscribe with their emails and stuff." And but I'm just like, I used to blog back in the day. I still have a blog. I don't blog on it too much anymore. If you go to Bauer-Power.net, I started that, man, like 18 years ago. So tech blog, and it got really popular. It's still, to this day, I almost never write on it. It still gets like 100,000 views a month. And I haven't written on it in like forever, but I used to really love writing about technology and, stuff I was working on and stuff like that. And, but as far as like dating and relationships, to me, it's much easier to make videos. So the idea of me like doing Substacks, I'm just like, man, I don't want another thing to do, but,
no, I hear you for sure.
But Ryan like really likes it right now. So he's talking it up. I might do it someday, because I do listen to Ryan. Like, Ryan's a fucking smart dude.
Yeah. He's one of the best we have for sure.
Yeah. And I just, that's like the being able to be on Rule Zero and actually like be behind the scenes and just get in the ears and the minds of these guys is just such a great opportunity.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you feel stupid talking to these dudes,
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
yeah,
talk
all
to
the time.
Have a conversation with Paul Benjamin sometime. Jesus Christ, that dude, that dude is smart, man. Let's see here. What made you decide to start both the Substack and your YouTube channel? I know you said they're different topics, but like, what made you decide to start writing? What made you decide to start making videos and podcasting?
It's I guess you'd call it like right place at right time, and just kind of like saying fuck it and I'm gonna go and do it. I was always like an internet lurker. Like, I was online in like political right-wing circles for a very long time. And then I really got my start on a friend of mine. His name is Academic Agent, who Ryan went on his channel, and it didn't go very well, but that's besides the point. I got my start on his channel because I was a member of his audience for a long time, and he had me on his show back in June of 21. And that's like where I got my real start. And I was making like side appearances on, his show for about like a year. And then I started my own show. I started my Substack in March of 22 is when I started it. And then I started my YouTube in June of 22. And it was just kind of like slowly building up like an online presence, like building up like a Twitter following. I originally went on his show to talk about like intersexual dynamics and red pill stuff, because he was like reaching this topic, and it was like flaring up in like right-wing circles and things like that. Not like in the gay way it is now, like with everybody getting on like that whatever podcast or whatever's going on, and like all the conservative ink types are over there. But yeah, so that's where I got my start. Enough people liked it. I started appearing more regularly. I started my own thing because people in that corner of the internet just weren't talking about like red pill stuff, and also just weren't talking about hunting, which is like my other really big love. And I just see that nobody's talking about this. I got some questions
about that.
Yeah. So like nobody else is talking about this, so it might as well be me. And then I figured like, yeah, I could do this. I could do this YouTube thing. I could do a show like once a week and go for an hour, just talk to cool people and have the conversations that I want to have, and just see where it goes. I mean, it's nice to make a little bit of money on the side with it too. Whoever said that was a bad thing. So yeah, I just kind of like stumbled into it, and I just really liked doing it, and I just kept doing it. So I kept making more videos and kept having more people on and kept writing more. And basically we're just going to ride this out for however long I please,
Yeah. Till it's not fun anymore. Yeah. It's funny that you talk about how you were a guest and you were like, I could do this. It's funny because years ago, I used to have a tech show. I used to have a tech show on YouTube called Tech Chop. And it became a chore. That show became such a chore to do that I finally just gave it up. But I used to have my own YouTube show doing that, and my son would sit there and watch these just the dumbest ass. Like I don't know if you have kids or not, but kids love to watch just the dumbest shit online, right? And my son's watching these dumb YouTube channels of guys doing like dumb pranks, or they're unboxing dumb stuff, or they're, just playing video games and just talking about video games. And, and I know Ryan does that, but yeah, it's like for me, I'm just sitting there watching it going like, why are you watching this stuff? Like what fascinates you about like this particular show and stuff? And my son's like, I don't know. It's cool. And I told him, I go, you could do this. You could do this. And he was like shocked. I can have my own YouTube channel. I'm like, yeah, like literally anybody can. And so we did a show for him for a while on YouTube, and we just went around. He was just doing kid stuff, like jumping his bike, and we were building, ramps in the yard and stuff. And we made like whole videos on like how to build bike ramps, and it was a fun thing for a while. And we finally stopped doing it once I handed him the reins, and I was like, look, you got to do your own video editing and come up with your own ideas. And then what Dad stopped being the producer.
Yeah.
The show in a way, but yeah, it's kind of fun. I love StreamYard though, because this sort of thing makes it so much easier. It's
for sure. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into the podcasting sphere and the editing and everything like that. People would be really surprised like how much work it really does entail. You have to treat this like a job, otherwise you're never going to do it. And that's like one of the things I set out for myself when I first started. I was like, okay, like if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do it half-assed. So I set up one time, like one day a week. It was like, okay, this is this chunk of time where I'm streaming. That's it. This is what I'm having the show. I have to do it. I'm not taking breaks. And it's kept me pretty straight and narrow. And that's been steady growth, which is a good thing. And that's what I set out to do with it. I knew I had to take it seriously. Otherwise I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Like if you guys are watching right now, and you've been thinking about doing your own podcast, the biggest thing that most podcasters will tell you is to be consistent, and also like niche down as much as you can when you first start. Because a lot of people, they want to have a Joe Rogan type podcast where they just talk about anything and everything and whatever comes. Like no one wants to tune into that. For one, and then two, people just sort of do it whenever they have time, and it's like no one's tuning in for that shit either. Like if you go every what you said Thursdays you do your every Thursday, like clockwork, RedHawk is doing a show, like you're more apt to tune into it. You just are. So yeah, smart way to go. What was the name of that guy's show you said you were a guest on for a while?
Academic Agent is his name. Yeah.
Academic Agent. And you said that Ryan went on the show and it didn't go well. What happened with that?
Yeah, it didn't go very well. There's a lot of stuff to go down here, but I guess the first thing would be like they started. It's interesting for me being in like quote unquote like Manosphere circles, and then in like dissonant right circles, and I kind of like have a cross between the two of them. And interestingly enough, like Ryan's tweets, because I was like retweeting them, ended up getting on AA's timeline, and they were like kind of throwing exchanges back and forth to each other. And then it eventually went down. I was like, hey, you should really talk to this guy. Like I'm talking to AA, referring to Ryan. I was like, yeah, Ryan's really, really smart dude. He's one of the best that we have. And then eventually they got on a stream together, and they really didn't do research on each other as like which other person was. I don't know if they really chatted too much in the DMs or anything, but like the conversation they were talking about, they were just two personalities that didn't mesh very well together. Like how Ryan is, like he's very like jokey and he's like laughing all the time and stuff. And it's like, AA is just a total like straight face, man. Like he's just not a joke.
Was he like taking offense to Ryan? Because Ryan can be sort of cynical and condescending,
Yeah,
but if you understand that's his personality, you also realize that he doesn't mean anything by it.
No, that definitely was like a bit of what was going on, for sure. And it was funny watching like a couple of our guys like Rob and everyone was like in the chat, just like laughing his ass off, looking at the spurgery going on in the comment section and everything. But so it didn't go super well. I think they left on amicable terms. At least I hope they did. But it just wasn't the best conversation. It could have gone way better, but
I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. It's funny. The first time I had Ryan on the show, I don't know, like Ryan, I don't think he knew that much about me at the time. He had seen like he was seeing my TikToks, because I repost my TikToks on Twitter. And I remember I hopped on to one of his Digital Ryan streams. And I was just in the chatting, and he's like, "Oh, come on, man, podcast." He's like, "I see your stuff all the time." He's like, "I'm gonna be honest, man. Like your videos are cringy as fuck." And so when I had him on the show, I asked him about that. I was like, what about my videos are cringy? And I didn't take offense to it, but I was actually, I like to get positive feedback. And Ryan's like, oh, he's like, all the stuff I say online is like top of the funnel shit. Like, don't take any, don't take it seriously. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
For sure. Yeah.
So one thing I like to ask other guys in the red pill space is, who hurt you? Who hurt you, Hawk?
I mean, I guess weirdly enough, like everyone's got these, like, Ryan says the Batman origin story, and everything like this. How'd you get into the space? Well, I guess I'm kind of unique in the fact, well, I wouldn't say too unique, but a lot of guys will say like, oh, they got like red pilled by like an ex or something, but like, I don't know, I kind of got red pilled by my parents. They had a nasty ass divorce when I was 16, 17 years old. And
I think Ryan had a similar situation. He got sort of red pilled through his mom's experiences.
Yeah. And so that was like, I won't go into too much details here on it, but it was just a complete shit show. And I bailed out of the house and moved halfway across the country to go to college just because I wanted to get away from it all there. And I ended up, one of my roommates just ended up being an absolute fucking player. He slayed like crazy. He's a good looking dude. He was like 6'2", jacked, and just was pounding pussy all the time. And I ended up just picking up a bunch of stuff from him basically when I started, because like, I grew up as, a millennial guy who didn't get too much instruction on, how to court women properly, so I was kind of lost, and I just ended up picking stuff up from him. And then eventually, like, what really made it click for me, like everything 100%, I picked up Rollo's book, and I forget at what point, like I picked it up. It had been like in the late 2010s. If I really thought about it, I'd probably sit down and find out when I first got my hands on it. But that was really when I got switched on to like the RP space itself, and a lot more things like made sense. Cause like I was already picking up some of these things like from my buddy and everything like this, but now I've read Riddle's book. It's like, oh, so that's why he does this and that's why this works and shit like that. So
did your friend like study any of this stuff, or was he just like a natural?
I wouldn't say he was like a born natural, but he definitely had some things going for him. This is something that I've talked about with other guys with. I feel like a lot of guys who are, like quote unquote more like born natural in this space, they had older brothers. And my buddy, he did have an older brother. It's just something I'm picking up from a lot of these guys that just, were like your, jock types in high school. The guys were like, top of the hierarchy football team kind of stuff. Like they tended to get a lot of that like masculine socialization from their brothers at a younger age, and it put them like light years ahead of their peers. It's just something that I've been picking up on, and I haven't been disproven of this yet, so I'm running with it.
That's a good running theory. I was like the opposite. Like if you ever met my older brother, my older brother is a total fucking incel. He really is. He's a legit incel. He's one of those guys that, he's like a MGTOW that doesn't sit around online bitching about.
Yeah, women. Not one of the Spurs, one of the actual ones.
No,
yeah.
Like he's actually out. He owns a lot of land. He works. He saves a lot of money and just does things that he likes to do. He lives like an actual homeless person. He lives in a fucking camper shell, but he must easily have a cool $1 million in the bank right now. Just because he has very low overhead, just lives like extreme minimalistically and just saves all of his money. And then he goes and acquires property, and he does stuff like they have this thing in Colorado. I don't know, and they might have it in other states too. But if you look up properties around you, and this might be something for the audience to look up too. If you look up at properties, especially in Colorado, there's properties where people haven't paid the back taxes on the property in so long that if you go into the county office and you pay all the back taxes on that, after a certain amount of time, the owner of the property, the county will give the owner of the property a certain amount of time to pay you back, right? Like they owe you that money. And if they don't pay you back, the county will award you that property.
Interesting.
So you can get property for like really cheap doing this method. You can look it up. It's totally legal. My brother's acquired like all sorts of property in the state doing that. And if you saw him, he just looks like an absolute homeless person, like he has bad hygiene. He's got to be 400 pounds, overweight. He's like 6'2". He's bald, but he grows his hair out long. He's got long, like woolly beard and stuff. It just like like if we stood next to each other, you wouldn't think that he was my brother at all. But so I didn't learn anything about women from him. But I was always like in high school and like I always had girlfriends like all through elementary school, all the way up through high school. Like I had a sort of a shitty period in junior high when I used to wear glasses. But in high school, did great with girls. But my problem was that I was a total blue pilled simp. You know, like once I got into a relationship, like I was putting these girls on pedestals and just really trying too hard, and you know, eventually just became an unattractive person to be with, and things didn't work out. And like I rushed to my first marriage. That didn't work out well. When I ended up on the dating circuit the first time, I've told this story 100 times on the podcast. Like I was a fat fuck, and I'd been out of practice for 15 years. So I had no idea I didn't know what I was doing when it came to talking to girls. I had to like relearn all this stuff, like in my mid 30s up into my 40s and stuff. So it's kind of cool that you got some experience with like your roommate,
Yeah, it was wild, to be honest. It was just it just like flipped the book on its head of like everything you're taught, like you're supposed to do. It's like, oh, you gotta be really nice and gotta dress really nice and take them out to expensive first date and take them out to a dinner and go to a movie or something. And my buddy just wasn't doing any of that. He'd just go to a house party on the weekend, come back with a girl. I'm like, what the fuck? How do you do this? It was totally bizarre to me, because I'm like trying to sit there, be really, really friendly, and be super nice and sweet and everything. And like there was at least like a couple times, like my freshman year in college, when I was like, in like a situation, I guess you'd say, with like one of these girls, I'll like be taking her around and doing some like cutesy kind of shit. And then like the very next day, she's like over there banging Chad or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck, But you learn way more from your failures than your successes in this game, for sure. So, like taking those beatings, just absolutely helped, for sure. Like to where I am now.
There were some guys, now if I think back to my Navy days, there were some guys in my division that were just absolute fucking players. There's this guy, Sovis. Shout out to Sovis. Sovis was like 6'3", just fucking ripped, Adonis. You know what I mean? Like anywhere he would go, he had just like the hottest chicks. At every port we went to, hottest chicks. He was dating like strippers in town and stuff. And I was married. Like I was a dumbass and got married my second year in. So if I could have done it over again, I probably would have spent more time hanging out with Sovis, probably learning some game back then. But I was the good boy. I was trying to go for that white picket fence. So I was rushing to get married, and I got married at 20 years old. Just dumb, like just dumb. So you mentioned hanging out with this friend. You said you did read Rollo's book. Have you read any other books in the space?
Let's see. Where's some other ones? I mean, I read like a lot of Chateau Artiste, a lot of that old stuff. I got conglomerated into a book, like 2 volumes on game. Obviously read parts of that. I read.
I know Fort Worth Playboy compiled a lot of that into a book.
Yeah, I know he's big on that for sure. He's a really old school like a Chateau Artiste guy. And funny enough, like there's a huge overlap with a lot of like dissonant right thinkers and like old Chateau Artiste stuff. It's very interesting. There's a lot of people that found folks like Bronze Age Pervert through like old Chateau Artiste blogs.
Bronze Age Pervert? Who's that?
Yeah. He's kind of like a bit. I'm actually covering him. Well, at the time of the recording, I'm covering him on my show tomorrow. But he's a big thinker in like quote unquote like dissonant right circles. Okay. And it's a sphere of like politics and things like that. But yeah, Bronze Age Pervert is his name, and he's kind of like one of these like Nietzschean like vitalists kind of guys. Okay. He talks up a lot of like old Greek warriors and things like that. He's like similar in the vein of somebody like Jack Donovan, though not gay. But yeah.
Okay.
So
all right, yeah, that's fascinating. Speaking of like right. I try not to get into politics too much on the show, but speaking of like right wing stuff, I used to run a political Facebook page that also had a political Twitter account associated with it. It was called Mainwashed. I had that for a very long time. I used to be really heavily into politics. My parents, my mom still is like, she volunteers for the local Republican Party. I've met Lauren Boebert a couple times.
Would.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Dude, she's tiny, man. She's short as hell too. I think Rob might actually be taller than her. But yeah, so I used to be like really into politics, and I used to just really be like emotionally invested into politics. And my family would watch, like the news, like most families watch like Sunday Night Football. You know what I mean? Like we were super into politics, but I took a step back from politics back in like 2020. I just realized it just wasn't so good for my mental health. A lot of the stuff that we fight about online is just dumb social issues that have no actual impact on most people. And so I still consider myself right wing, but I just don't focus on it so much anymore.
No, yeah, it's definitely very like unhealthy to be like crazy obsessed with like the everyday goings on, like with the news.
Yeah.
Because like, but number one, it's all curated, from both sides, to designed, for you to focus on certain things that they want you to focus on at this time. So you're already being manipulated in that regard. And basically, like, once you have like your core ideas established and what you do and don't believe in, like kind of like this space, like get in, get out, like, use what's useful to you, and that's it. But no, you don't want to be like doom scrolling like through Twitter all the time. I mean, I do a very good job of, managing my Twitter feed in such a way that, it's just not infested with, too much political stuff all the time, like the day and day things. I'm much more interested into like the philosophy behind ideas as opposed to like, oh, let's lower tax rates or something stupid that, some politician is trying to say today.
Yeah, I think that's a smarter way of going about it. Shifting gears here. Why Hawk? Why RedHawk?
Funny enough, this is it's a name I've had basically since when did I get it? Maybe when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I've just had this name pretty much my entire life as a pseudonym, in the sense of whenever like my family, we would always do this whenever like we go on like a hunting trip or a fishing trip or something, like all the guys just had a name. You just had a name assigned to you. You're like, oh, you're RedHawk, you're Fox, you're Frog, you're Sidewinder, like whatever you are. And it was just like one of those like bonding like exercises things like in male spaces that you just had. And yeah, okay, this is your name, so you get it now. And when you're in like one of these all male spaces, when somebody screams you from across the room to go like pour the beer or the drinks for the older men in the room, it's like, get over here, RedHawk, and get to work. So it's just been a name I've had for a very, very long time.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. I was curious about that. Speaking of animals, let's talk about hunting a little bit.
Yeah. My other bread and butter for sure.
Yeah. You've hunted all over the world, right? I saw on your Substack, you hunted in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, that was one of my first trips abroad for a hunting trip. I was a young man at the time, and I got taken along with my grandfather and my dad and a couple other guys. And they were just out there on their first African safari, and they were looking to shoot Cape buffalo and leopard. And we were in Zimbabwe for like 10 days, something like that. And then a couple of years after that, maybe 5 or 6 years later, they took another safari out to Tanzania and Kenya, and I went out there for that one as well. But yeah, it's just, it was never something I was not going to do. Like I just grew up in a family of hunters. Every single man in my family, got excited for deer season. They went outside, they got up at the crack of dawn. They went and shot something, killed it, mounted it on their wall, and served it up on a silver platter for dinner. It was just, it never came into my mind once, growing up. It's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to do this. Like, oh yeah, when you're old enough, he'll come. When you're old enough, your time will come. And basically that was it. So we ended up taking this trip. This was back in 2003, 2004, something like that. So we were down in Zimbabwe, and yeah, that was a very, very, interesting hunt for sure. A lot of fun, a lot of memories.
So with that, so my cousin just went and did an African hunt. I don't know where he was at. But he went, I don't want to say a year or two ago. He won't shut up. He won't shut the fuck up about it. But
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for a while, he was just like he would take a picture of the sunset and be like, "This reminds me of my African sunset." Like, I mean, shut the fuck up, dude. No one cares. But he, but he was telling me about it. We do this annual fence fixing thing where we go up to we have property up in Craig, Colorado. We have family property up there. We go up there every year to fix the fence line and camp out. It's a great time. And so he was up there and he was talking about it. And he was saying that what they basically had to do is they went to like a preserve and they had to they paid a fee and everything was sort of like taken care of. And they were almost like guaranteed an animal of some kind. And they went out and they shot like various animals like every day. And then that night they were fed that animal that they shot. And then whatever was left over was given to some local tribe. Was that the situation?
Yeah, that's generally how it's basically been going since around like the 80s and the 90s. It's not like in America's very unique in the sense of number one, our conservation. I mean, Americans basically invented conservation, you know, like with folks like Teddy Roosevelt and stuff, but that's a different topic. But in America, you could basically just walk into any Dick's Sporting Goods and buy a hunting tag, you know, right at the register for like $25. And
in Colorado, I don't know if it's like this in you're in Texas, right?
I'm on the East Coast.
You're on the East Coast. Okay. Well, let's keep it vague. But so you're on the East Coast. So in Colorado, you have to have a hunter safety card at least before you can go and get any kind of big game. Is it like that out there?
No, not for me. I did end up taking one though when I was a kid. It's just, you know, something you did, but you got to check your state. Some of them require them, some of them don't. Typically this goes across like blue versus red lines. Like the blue states are more restrictive and the red states, like, yeah, just go walk outside and shoot something. Well, that's generally how it goes. But yeah, what you're describing is basically like an outfitter. And that's how they do these kinds of hunts throughout America for, you know, your really big game species like your moose and your elk and your bears. They will do these outfitter things. And basically what you do is, so I'll use Africa as an example. So basically the entire continent, they don't have these kinds of like free range hunting that we do in the United States. Number one, because animals are so we have a large plethora of them here in the United States, you know, because we do a good job of conserving them and managing them. But in Africa, when you don't have like the strong central government that's managing over all these animals, you can't just walk outside and shoot one. Like they're technically all owned by the state. So what they do in order to make money is they'll basically have sections of land that's either fenced in or not, like hundreds upon hundreds of miles of these game preserves, and they license them out to professional hunters, to professional hunting outfitters. And you basically have a set amount of land that you're allowed to work in, usually hundreds of square miles because these reserves are massive. And you're like, okay, this outfitter is allowed to hunt in this area, and you're allowed to take X amount of certain animals from this area every single year. And this is the price that the government sets. And basically that's what happens, you know, so like a client from overseas is going to pay this outfitter, you know, okay, I want to hunt XYZ things. And the professional hunter is like, oh, okay, well, we have a couple open spots available for this because we've shot X amount of these already. So you're allowed to take, you know, X of whatever you want to shoot. And then the outfitters can be like, oh, okay, well, if you want to shoot like 15 animals, that's going to take you like well over a month to do. And sometimes guys will stay out there for multiple months, you know, at a time, depending on what they want and how much money they have. And maybe you only want to shoot a couple things, so you're only there for a couple of days. But yeah, they basically take care of everything for you. They feed you with everything you kill. They'll take care of any firearms that you do or don't have, you know, so that they will skin your trophies for you. So you can send them back to the States to get it all taxidermied up. Yeah, so there's plenty of options for you. And I would absolutely recommend that. And if you're looking to get into this, like hunting abroad, a good place to start is a website that Jim Shockey runs. It's called bookyourhunt.com. Just go check out Book Your Hunt, and you can just, it's basically just like a Google search, and you just Google like, oh, I want to hunt in this country, or I want to hunt this animal, and you can change it by pricing. Also look into the company Safari Club International, SCI. They have a big convention every single year out in Vegas or Reno, Nevada. It's usually in like February or January. And it's a huge ass convention, and guys from all over the world are there to basically just sell you on these kinds of hunts. So if that's what you're looking into, go for it. That's your best place to start with like these big outfitter ones.
I'll put links to these in the description for this. That's good information. Yeah, it's funny going back to like the states and like hunter safety. I just remember when I was a kid, like I had to go. My dad took my brother and I both to go get our hunter safety cards when we were like, man, maybe I think I might have been like 11 or 12 or something like that. And then in Colorado, you can do small game hunting as long as you have your hunter safety card. You can do small game hunting up until basically as long as you have that card forever. And then you have to be at least 14 to go big game hunting. And big game is like deer, elk, bear, stuff like that out here. And yeah, so like I got my hunter safety card and I went up to the family field, where we go and do the fence fixing. That's pretty much like where we've always hunted. And went up there and I had a 22 rifle and I was out there shooting rabbits while my brother and my dad were shooting deer and elk and my cousins were shooting deer and elk and stuff like that. And then when I was finally old enough to go deer and elk hunting, I went and did that when I was a teenager, but I haven't done big game hunting since then. But I back in 2015 was the last time I actually did any kind of hunting. And I went rabbit hunting again with my dad and we went up to the family field to do that. It's a good place to do it. And we've also, we're talking about outfitters. My grandparents, when they still owned the property, they used to lease their land to outfitters up there.
Oh, cool.
So there was maybe a good decade where we weren't even allowed to go up there during the hunting seasons because
I'm sure
they had
solid.
they had leased it out to the outfitters, and so the outfitters wanted the property, and that whole area really got pretty well hunted out because of all the ranchers were doing that. They were all like leasing their land out to outfitters. And so they were bringing all the Californians in to hunt, elk and deer. And so now if you go out there, there's a shitload of antelope, but there's not as much deer and elk as there was when I was a kid, which is unfortunate. So a lot of the ranchers stopped outfitting because there's no deer and elk and their clients weren't getting any anymore. So hopefully that the population can come back and we can start seeing that again.
Yeah. There's a bunch of organizations that are looking to reintroduce a lot of like animals to their historic ranges. There's now elk seasons now held as far east as like Pennsylvania and Tennessee. They have stable enough populations now for people to go hunt them. So yeah, it's an ongoing process, but yeah, I'd like to head out west and shoot a couple big game. I've never shot an elk and I've never shot an antelope, so those are both on my list at some point to take out.
I've had mixed reviews about the antelope. So I have a friend that this gal that I went to high school with, her and her husband live up in Craig, and they go antelope hunting and they love it. They think it's great. And then my cousin's like, no, it tastes like mutton's disgusting. So I don't know. I don't know. I've never had antelope. I don't know. But I love deer and elk. Like venison's delicious. Elk
they taste so good.
Are so good. So I love that stuff, man.
Yeah, and if you've never experienced it before, like any guy in the chat listening, like when you take a bite out of something that came from the woods, it just immediately tastes different. Like you can honestly like feel like the nutrients just enter your system the second you take a bite out of it. It's not like anything you're ever going to get in a grocery store, not by a mile.
Like if you ever hear the term gamey, it's gamey tasting. Like wild animal tastes different, but it's good. It's a good taste. Yeah. I liked it. I love that stuff. But I haven't gone hunting in so long. It really just like, it doesn't, for me, like, I just like I'd much rather just go camping, and I don't like, dressing the animal and skinning it and then doing all the work, but they do have processing around here. So I could clean it out there and then bring it to a processor like that. Yeah, I could be a rich Californian.
Yeah, honestly, that's how I do it mostly at this point. Like I'll field dress whatever I kill just to get like all the guts and shit out of it, and then just put it in the back of my truck and haul it over to a butcher. Because number one, like any of the work that I do on this thing is not going to be as good as what he does, and I've got a butcher that my family has used for a really long time, so I just like sending it over to him. He knows what parts of the game I really like. And that's all there is to it. It just makes the process so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a gal that I used to date, and she was on the podcast back when I first started the podcast. Marine Corps chick and her family had some property, and she and her mom would actually do outfitting.
Hmm.
So she would actually like go out for, a week or a couple weeks at a time and like take rich Californians out and call in elk. And, she would do the bugling for these guys so that they could shoot an elk and stuff like that. It was kind of fun.
Mm.
So you've hunted in Africa. Have you hunted anywhere else, any other kind of country?
No, just all over the States. Aside from Africa. I'd like to do like some like Canada stuff at some point. Maybe shoot like a caribou or something like that.
Mhm.
But I mean, I've got when I was a white collar guy, I was in the white collar work in the mortgage industry for a couple of years. This was 5 or 6 years ago now. And when I would have like clock watching time, because I just hated my job so much, I would just like take pages upon pages of notes like in a journal of like, oh, okay, here's an outfitter I can go through, here's the stuff I need, here's when I could do it, like what time of year and things like this. I just have pages of things that I want to shoot because it's like, oh, okay, my work's done, but the boomer's got to keep me in the office for 8 hours, so might as well find something to do with my time. But yeah, I mean, I want to head out all over the place, and there's like nothing there's nothing on this earth that like that I don't want to shoot and taste. It's just I'm just obsessed about it. But
Yeah.
you kind of do like when you grow up the way I did, and like just people going around, like everybody is just traveling somewhere. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to New Zealand. Oh, I'm gonna go to Africa. Oh, I'm gonna go to Canada. Oh, I'm going out west. Oh, I'm going down south. like wherever. There was just always somebody who was on a trip somewhere shooting something. It's like, oh, okay, I want to do that too. But yeah,
Got
it's
it.
yeah. So there's an entire lifetime ahead of me. Looking forward to hunting a bunch of stuff.
So it's funny you mentioned how the boomers need to keep you there for 8 hours. What came to my mind is, have you ever read the book, The 4 Hour Work Week?
No, I am familiar with the premise though, but I haven't read the book.
Yeah, dude, that book's a great book. I recommend it to anybody to read it. But one of the ideas in that book is that a good majority of your time at work is just fluff. It's fucking busy work. It's just because, we've set up the system where you're there for 40 hours a week. You're there for 8 hours a day. But most of the shit you do is like water cooler time. You're just,
Mhm.
just looking at your screen, like fucking around with spreadsheets just to look busy, but your actual work, you're probably only doing about 4 hours a week.
Oh
And
yeah, I 100% believe that.
and
Yeah.
so the book just gives you a strategy on how to basically convince your boss that you should work from home. And
Hmm.
then if you work from home, then it talks about like how to prioritize your day so that you're knocking out the 4 hours of real work that you're actually delivering on, and how to make your boss think that you're doing all this stuff so that you can work on side projects.
Yeah. No, that's such a good idea. I mean, I got a buddy
Yeah.
who's doing this right now. I was actually just down visiting him a couple weeks ago down in Tampa, and he does the
Yeah.
exact same thing. Like he works from home. He has 2 jobs that he works from home with. And he
Yeah.
basically only does like 4 hours of work a day, and then all the rest of the time he's out on the beach, he's out in the gym. And it's crazy because he's just raking in all this kind of money, and neither of the 2 jobs know about the other one.
Right.
I mean, not
Yeah.
unless they got a hold of his taxes, but who the fuck's gonna do that?
Yeah, there
So
in most employers, and I can tell you because I'm I manage people, like, and I tell my guys like, hey, look, I don't give a fuck what you're doing as long as you're delivering on the work I ask you. Do whatever the fuck you want. I'm
mhm,
not, and I work remotely. I've been working remotely since 2013, and
lucky.
so
Hmm.
it's like as long as I'm doing my stuff, my boss doesn't care.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend it to people to read that book because it will actually get you like it could get you out of the rat race for sure.
Mm.
Um, Going back to hunting though, what's the most like exotic animal that you've shot?
Oh, I have an answer for this. So I shot something that is extinct in the wild and only exists on private game reserves, and it's called a scimitar horned oryx. I shot one down in Texas. outside of San Antonio on a big hunting ranch down there. I'm actually trying to organize a hunt down there at some point, either this fall or into next year, with a bunch of our guys, like the Masculine Geek guys and everything like this. They want to go hunt wild boars. I'm like, oh, okay, I got the guys for us, man. So I did a hunt down there with them as well, where we hunted wild boars with we sent out dogs after them, and then you go in with knives and you like stab the boar. It was very, very, very
that's
epic
cool.
hunt. Yeah, but yeah, guys in the chat can Google this thing, like a Scimitar horned Oryx. It's very unique looking, and they basically were hunted to extinction in the wilds in Africa during a bunch of civil wars, and they only exist on these like private game reserves now throughout the United States. And Texas is very unique in this regard because the state allows that the second an animal crosses your property line, it's considered your private property. Even like a wild one, as soon as it's on your land, which is very, very unique. So a bunch of these guys would basically just set up private game reserves on 100,000, acre ranches out in Texas. And they would just ship in surplus animals from zoos, basically. And they would just have these giant game reserves, and people would go on hunts for them, basically without, having to travel overseas for it. So it's something you can look into if that floats your boat. If you get into issues with like hunter ethics about the fact that like it's fenced in territory, even though like
it's 100,000 acres.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The home range, this animal is never going to walk from one edge of the fence to the other in its entire life. But some people are a little wooey about it, which is fine. That's
some people don't like the idea of just like hunting in general, but like what people don't realize is that if you don't have these hunts, then these animals do get overpopulated. Then they start starving to death. Then they start dying. There was a whole issue. My grandma was telling me like back in the, I don't know, maybe the 60s or 70s, and I might have the dates totally messed up, so don't quote me on this, but she was telling me that there was like this area in Colorado that they like banned hunting. And what they ended up having like a problem with like overpopulation of the deer, and the deer started dying, and the town started stinking from all these carcasses and stuff. And so they had to bring back hunting to sort of just keep the population in check.
Yeah. It's obviously something you got to deal with because, America being a dangerous country with a lot of natural predators here, we decided to hunt all those so we could actually establish our cities and live peaceably without having bears and cougars and wolves, eating us every time we walked outside. And so lo and behold, all their prey animals without any predators just grew out of control. I mean, how many times have you seen like a shitty TikTok video of like a mule deer eating out of somebody's bird feeder in their front yard or something? They're everywhere.
The deer are like fucking rats up in the town north of me in Cedar Edge, Colorado. There's like, I had a house, I lived there for quite a while. And now like deer were in my yard, like on a daily. They're like fucking rats. They're shitting in my yard. My dog used to like to go out there rolling all the deer shit. And it was like at night, sometimes the deer would get hit by cars and then like stumble into my yard, and I'd have like
I've hit 4 deer in my life at this point. Yeah,
they're everywhere, but they know that they're not getting hunted in town, so they've all just sort of migrated downtown from off the Grand Mesa, and so there's just fuck tons of deer everywhere, and it's crazy. So but yeah, I mean,
someone's got to shoot them, and it's going to be somebody like me. So
might as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, somebody's got to do it, so it might as well be me. Yeah.
So like you in your Substack, you were talking about like trophies, like your family had trophies. Are you a trophy hunter? Do you keep trophies?
Yeah, I do. Okay. This is like a point of contention that you can get in with like hunter ethics people. If anyone's familiar with Steve Rinella, he's a big guy who goes on Joe Rogan's show a bunch talking about hunting, and he's got his own show on Netflix called Meat Eater. He's one of these big proponents of, he's not a big fan of trophies and keeping trophies for trophy hunting, but that's just a point of contention I have with him, because it's like, I understand the meme. I understand the idea of like some, like fat 400-pound like Wall Street guy who's just traveling abroad to a random country and just shooting something basically from the car and barely putting in any effort to it. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, I shot this thing. I'm going to keep it on my wall so I can like revere it basically for forever and be like, oh yeah, that harkens back to a memory I had of this certain hunt, and yeah, it's like it's a thing of respect as opposed to a thing of like, I don't know, like domination or whatever people think it is.
Yeah, I don't have a judgment on it. Like when I was growing up, we just didn't, but like my cousin did. My cousin has a fuck ton of like, heads all in his like, front living room and stuff like that. Like, great. But like my dad was just more like, we're doing this for the meat, but it was no judgment. It was just like, to each their own sort of thing.
It's not like they're mutually exclusive either. I mean, like in most cases, like whenever I'm shooting, I'm going to eat it too.
Yeah. So. There are people that will just shoot it for the trophy and like, disregard the meat. I think I do kind of think that's sort of wasteful, but whatever, I mean,
yeah. But they'll end up giving the meat to like somebody too. I mean, like the other thing too is like, it's nature and nothing in nature is wasted. So even if you were to literally just, shoot a deer, take its head and mount it on your wall and just leave the carcass in the middle of the woods, like it's going to get used. Like, do I think it's like the best idea to be doing that? No. I mean, number one, because like it's deer, it tastes great. And also like if you just dollar cost average it out, basically it's like, so you paid like $20 for a tag and you're getting like 50 pounds of meat. It's like, yeah, that's pretty good ROI on, stocking your freezer full of food.
Yeah, it is. This is a total side topic, but you're talking about how like nothing goes to waste out in nature, like something will eat it. This is a total side topic, and I probably should put this on YouTube, but I dated a cop once. And I've talked about cop chick on the podcast before, but I dated this cop, and one time like we got in a conversation on like how to get rid of a body. And she was saying that the best way is to take a body up to like the national forest and like cut it up a little bit so that there's like blood and stuff like that, so the animals can really smell it, and then just let nature take its course up there. And they said by the time they find that body, they cannot do forensics on it because the animals have fucked with it so much. The bacteria starts getting in there. It starts decomposing. They can't do any forensics on it.
Yeah, I'd believe it. I mean, I was funny enough. I had a stint when I was going to be a cop as well, and so I did a lot of like research and like criminology and everything like this. And it's actually really, really surprising, like how easy it is to actually get away with murder. It's crazy.
Yeah, you would think just like watching cop shows and like detective shows on TV that like, oh, you're never going to get away with it. It's like, dude, people get away with it all the time.
Yeah, their success rate's like 40%. It's crazy. It's below. It's like it's a failing grade.
She was telling me, we're just totally on a different tangent here, but she was telling me that there was a murder that happened. There was a murder that happened while we were dating. And she came from Albuquerque. So she was a detective. She was a detective, a homicide detective in Albuquerque, New Mexico, like in gangland. You know what I mean? And so she came up here to sort of live the quiet life in a small town police department in Fruita. And so she came in, she walked into they called in a bunch of cops because there was a murder, and just the way that the country bumpkin police were handling the situation, she just turned around and walked out. She's like, I don't want to be a part of this investigation at all. She fucking walked out. She goes, none of this can be prosecuted because they fucked this up. They did this wrong. Like this is, there's a whole like idea of like, custody of evidence and like
that was big in
with stuff.
That was big in the OJ case.
And the country bumpkin cops were just fucking it up right there. And she had experience like in a bigger city dealing with that stuff. She just turned around and walked out. She's like, I don't even want my name on the report. Like it's funny. She's like, if you ever want to murder somebody, murder him in Fruita, Colorado. Because the cops will fuck up the investigation. I was like, that's funny. That's super funny. Let's see here. We're almost at an hour here. I got like 2 questions left. So
sure.
So have you used you went out like dating with your roommate or whatever? Was that like sort of cold approach pickup type stuff?
I guess, but like kind of. I think it would probably cross more into like social circle game, just because like we didn't go to like a super big school. So like we kind of recognized like the same people, in the same, it was basically like 4 or 5 houses you would always go to. So I think it wasn't like true, like cold approach, like something like Troy, like Troy doing, but yeah.
Yeah, they're like Michael Sartain teaches social circle game, and I have a friend that I've had on the podcast that he teaches social circle game. Have you ever done any like dating apps?
Oh yeah, I've done a fair amount of them for sure. That's definitely where a majority of my game is now at this point. Just because like I'm not in like all these like crazy social situations that I once used to be. like I got this going on, so I'm doing like a lot of online shit, in my free time, or and I got my day job. I'm a trades guy, so like I'm not in, social situations too much for that. So yeah, dating apps are mostly what I'm using nowadays.
So do you have your hunts on your dating app profile?
No, absolutely not. No, never.
Do you have the dead animals on there? Like, because it's funny. Like, so I live out in cow pasture country, and a bunch of country bumpkins, a bunch of hunters out here, and that is, I mean, fish pics and pics of your fucking elk that you just killed is like huge for guys on dating apps out here, and I don't think it helps them.
No, it doesn't either. I used to for a really long time. Like when I was first starting out, like, my idiot brain thought to myself, oh man, like if I do this, then the girl's going to know immediately what she's getting into. And, and she's going to respect it. And it's like, no, it's not how it works. It's the same thing with like putting like right-wing politics in your like dating app profile. Don't ever do that. It's, this is a numbers game, fellas. So you just need to be casting as wide a net as possible. And you do not need to be, crossing off women off your list immediately because, a picture of you with a dead deer was off-putting to them, or, something about Trump, like was off-putting to them or something. It's like, you have no reason for that. And also like, here's the other thing. And like with the politics thing, it's like, they're women. It's like, why are you having political discussions with women? It's not what they're for, so it's just absurd. You have deep political conversations with men, and if your girl likes you, she's going to end up voting the way you vote anyway. So like, why do you even discuss it with them? It's stupid.
Yeah. It's you could take a liberal ass girl, and if you have a strong enough frame, she'll start falling into that, and vote your way.
Like most of them don't think about it. I mean, just like extrapolate this into like literally anything else you see. Like when you're with a chick, like they can't even decide what to get for dinner. You think they really have a deep economic philosophy that they follow or something? It's like, no, they just go with the wind, man. And hopefully that wind is you. When you're get in their orbit enough. But yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. Like I've had chicks that are like vehemently anti-gun, and I carry a gun with me literally everywhere, so it's like, it's just part of the process. So, sometimes they get a little woozy about it, but like right away, they're just like, oh, okay, I actually feel really safe. It's like, yeah, this is just literally what I do. And if you just own your shit, you'll get so much further in this game as opposed to trying to appease like everybody at every step of the way. It's like, oh, if I really, listen to what she says, and if I really, do it this certain way that she wants, it's like, dude, they fucking change their minds every 5 seconds. It's like, that's ridiculous. Just do what you want to do. And if the chick can come along for the ride, that's great. If not, there's always another one.
Yeah. You ever watch the TV show Yellowstone?
I have not. No. I get so many people that keep recommending this stuff to me, but like, I don't know. I don't really watch too much TV, because I'm always like doing other things. And the thing is too, is like when I get into like series shows, I have to watch it like with other people, like for a long time and really get roped in. But it's just like, I haven't found the time yet. I mean, maybe I'll watch it, but again, like, I'm just so displeased. This is something Jack Napier and I, we run a nerd podcast like every other week, and it switches back between our channels. And one of the things we talk about there all the time is like just how much our modern media just really sucks.
Super woke, right?
Yeah. And it's just hard to get invested in literally anything because oh, okay, all right, next season, when are they going to inject like the gay character? When are they going to tell me like white men are evil or something stupid? So it's like, okay, why am I even bothering?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. It's super hard for me to get invested in any show nowadays because of like they always got to slip some kind of wokeness in it. I will say though that Yellowstone does a very good job of not doing that. And in fact, what they will do is they will slip the wokeness in, but the wokeness shit is they're the bad guys. Because the whole idea is that it's in Montana and it's ranch country. It's very a right wing sort of country show, and the people that are the bad guys are the liberals that want to come in and try to change that area. Right. So it's really good from that standpoint, but it's all fiction too, by the way, but
right.
But it's got a good storyline. One of the things that's happened over the last 2 seasons, not to give too many spoilers away, but there's this like environmentalist chick that comes in and she's protesting whatever. And John Dutton, the main character, which is Kevin Costner's character.
Mm.
He comes in and he's just got this strong fucking masculine, he's a strong masculine cowboy character, and he's just got such strong frame that this chick is slowly coming around to his side. You know what I mean? Like,
Nice.
so she's like a total vegan. Like, I know by the end of this next season, she's going to be eating steak and shit. Like,
Awesome. Another win for the good guys.
Yeah, for sure. Man, this has been a fun conversation. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Twitter at RedHawk, the YouTube channel, which is also at RedHawk. As I mentioned, the main show is on Thursdays, Man's Hour, so check that out. And then for my writing on Substack, my own personal Substack for most of the hunting stuff is called Son of Orion. And then the company I was mentioning earlier, the Old Glory Club, is the other one. So you can find a bunch of my writings over there as well. And I put a post out for them recently and got like 5,000 views. It was pretty well received. And it was just basically about like the beauty of America's national park system and things like that. So check that out. But thanks for having me on, Paul. This was tons of fun, man.
Yeah, man, you're welcome back anytime. So the Old Glory Club, that's Substack?
Yeah. There's their Substack and their YouTube as well. But yeah,
okay.
Same name. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'll link to all this stuff in the description. All right, man. I'll give you your evening back. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hawk, thank you for joining me, man. You're welcome back anytime. Fun conversation. All these interviews, when they're with anonymous people, they're always kind of, they're fun to do. They're fine. But like when it comes to like promoting this stuff and like cutting TikToks and stuff like that, it's always interesting. And next week, I got to do the same thing, because next week I have Mish, Chad of Arabia, on, and he's the same way. He doesn't show his face online. It's just an avatar I'm talking to. So we got two anonymous dudes back to back this week. But both guys are really cool guys. If you guys follow like Ryan Stone at all, or man, like just probably anybody in the space, Rob Says, for instance, right? Rob Says, these guys, like, we all follow each other. We all know each other. So you've probably heard of them before, but if not, they're good guys to know. Definitely give them a follow. Links to Hawk's Twitter account and stuff like that are in the description, so check that out. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have this week, man. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit those notifications. If you're watching the replay, drop a comment below. Any comment will do. Your favorite emoji, eggplant, I don't care. If you guys are listening on your audio platforms, give us a 5-star review. Write out why you like the show. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description for that. Get on the Patreon, patreon.com/comeonmanpod. You can join for as little as $10. You get on the beer credits of Monday's episode. So I will be showing the beer credits shortly after this. Get on the email list@comeonmanpod.com. I'll send you some free stickers. And if you like these designs, they're available on mugs and t-shirts and hoodies and stuff at merch.comeonmanpod.com. Check that out. And then other than that, check out my practical law of attraction course today, loa.comeonmanpod.com. That's loa.comeonmanpod.com. Get your mind right, and everything else in your life will fall into place. That's all I got, guys. I guess we'll see you guys on Wednesday for my live at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. New full episodes served hot every Monday morning on your favorite podcast platform of choice. So subscribe now. Follow Paul on social media. The links are in the description. Now, go out and get it.